What's up, everyone? My name is Forsaken, and today we are going to talk about being a gamer. Now, for a contemporary definition of the word gamer, where do you go? Urban Dictionary, of course. They define gamers as an all-inclusive term to describe the maligned, often misunderstood group of people that regularly engage in video, computer, or tabletop games. The word maligned is similar to something like slander, where someone speaks ill of you, which I find is appropriate because anytime there's something that happens, like a school shooting or something like that, you always see, oh, well, he played violent video games. He sat in his dungeon, down in his mother's basement like a troll under a bridge, shooting people every day. And then it was only a matter of time before he snapped. Video games are bad. Obviously, I feel to the contrary. Now, I could get in some big tangent about how many Grand Theft Auto video games I've played and how many times I got a hooker and then killed her and took my money back. But we have heard those arguments all before. I'm going to speak more about my own personal lived experiences because chances are if you're watching this video, you aren't debating whether or not you should play video games. Any gamer knows that to learn a skill, it requires a skill point, and you can apply this in your daily life as well. Now, how do you gain a skill point? Through experience. I've met a lot of people in life that give up when they come across this wall, where they want to do something, a skill or a task or hobby, but they aren't instantly great at it. But in order to gain a skill point to get better at any given task, you have to fill your experience bar. An incremental amount of effort over time will fill that bar until you plateau, and you'll learn something. And there's an obvious level up, if you'll give me the liberty, and you become more proficient at that task. It doesn't matter if you're actually playing a video game or trying to get into working out or developing a new hobby or skill. Life is a grind. But here's the thing. Life, obviously, isn't a video game. But it kind of is. See, it depends at how you look at it. If you look at your life as a round of a game, it's not as obvious, because you don't know if you have won or lost until it's far too late. So instead of the span of a life, I would look at it of the span of a day, or days, or weeks. The shorter the time span, the easier it is to understand this. Now, there's a fellow who is a rather controversial figure, to say the least. He is a clinical psychologist out of Canada by the name of Jordan Peterson. Now, he said it best by saying that life is a series of games iterated over time, which is why I feel the shorter the time interval between games, the more you have to gain from it. If your victory of the previous game is defined by the next morning of each following day, it allows you to steer your life in a better direction. Let's say last night I was up all night drinking. Well, then this morning I would wake up feeling like shit. At the point of getting up in the morning, I regret my decisions from the previous night. Does that have a long-lasting effect over me? No. But all things in life have a cumulative effect. So if you did that daily, eventually you're going to have a problem. That also works in reverse. You know, if you spend all day doing sit-ups, in the morning it's going to hurt, of course, so that's going to suck. But over time, your cumulative effect is you're going to have some washboard abs. So how do you apply this? Obviously, you want to have as many victories as possible, and as few failures as possible. As your victories stack up, you move more towards order. You can move more towards your goals and the things that you want out of life. As you get failures, you gradually move more towards chaos and hell, and the place in life that you don't want to be, that nobody wants you to be. Obviously, there are extreme outliers like a massive victory where you won the fucking lottery, or a massive failure that may have been out of your hands, like a disease or an accident or something like that. But what is really interesting, we're going to get a little abstract here, so just brace yourself, is that life might actually, literally, be a video game. You may or may not have heard of the simulation theory, which is to say that our reality that we all experience is actually a computer simulation. There is a fellow by the name of Nick Bostrom, I believe, who gets this theory attributed to him. Now, I'm obviously no fucking scientist, so this isn't going to be verbatim. It's going to be a generalization of the theory. But more or less, the theory goes that as time passes by, computational power increases. Though over recent history, computational power has actually increased exponentially. So if you take that trend and extrapolate it into the future, there will become a point where a human consciousness can be simulated. But not just one consciousness, mine, yours, the one of every single person you know. That they can be simulated to the point that they are such a quality that they themselves do not understand that they are part of a simulation. They think their experiences are real, genuine. Now this has to be done for an entire planet, or solar system, or galaxy, or depending how you make the argument, because it's kind of like the thing that if a tree falls in the woods and nobody hears the sound, does it actually make a sound? So the consciousnesses of the people that are interacting with one another only have to exist as long as they are interacting with one another. And so the simulation develops itself to the point where they themselves can create a simulation when they advance far enough. And that simulation in turn will advance to the point that it can create another one. Obviously, this technology is so far off in the future. It belongs to some intergalactic civilization that can harness the power of stars. Unless there's a glitch in the Matrix and someone comes down and starts doing magic tricks, we'll never be able to tell. But if this is possible at all, the likelihood of us being in what you would call the base universe, where we are the ones that initiate this shit, is extremely minimal. You are far more likely to actually be living in a simulation than not to. Now, it might spit in your face if you're a religious person, you believe in heaven and hell and God and all that. It's fine. That's your deal. Though, though as like a hardcore gamer, I kind of like the feeling that I'm living in a simulation. But still, it doesn't matter in practical sense, because if I cut my arm off, my aim's gonna be whack. With all that aside, my favorite thing about being a gamer and the culture and just having it be part of my life is the camaraderie. Personally, I am an introvert, wildly so. Like if I didn't have to work for a living, I would be a hermit. Most of my childhood was spent playing video games alone in my room with a couple friends over doing co-op on the 64. But even if your activity is a solitary pursuit, it allows you to still be part of a larger community. Now, I don't think it's so applicable if you're into the sports games like Madden and the 2K series and all that. There's nothing wrong with them. They're not for me. If they make you happy and you enjoy spending your time and money on them, fine. But if by chance you ever happen to come across a gamer in life, someone completely randomly that through talking to them you found out they love the same games that you do, or even a game, especially if it's a game from your childhood, something you have fond memories playing, you discover instantly that you have a bond with this person. Like it was created a long time ago before you ever met him, because you realize upon the conversation that you two share secret knowledge. You know who Cloud Strife is. You've both been whacked by a giant the first time you saw one in Skyrim and sent blasting off like Team Rocket. Perhaps you went on an epic adventure with Geralt of Rivia. And there are tighter bonds than that within that sphere. Say you know where the Easter egg is, the secret item, you know how to find the ruby weapon in Final Fantasy VII. Or what has become like a common cultural icon of the Konami code. In a world that feels so divided, whether it be because of religion or politics or economics, etc., the group that I hold in the most esteem, that I feel is my tribe, are gamers. I feel that it is what defines me the most. I do a lot of things. I get into crafts, I like to paint, I'm getting into woodworking, but the thing that makes me happiest in life, the thing that I have spent tens of thousands of hours doing, is playing video games. And I honestly wouldn't take any of that time back. Which is why I have to say that if you're a gamer, you're inherently my friend. We're part of the same family. Except for all the people who have claimed to have had sex with other people's mothers. Fuck those guys.